It's a Football Friday over on Green Dot Daily. We've got to keep the good times rolling after a theatrical ending on Thursday Night Football, where the Ravens fell just a toenail short of potentially taking down the Super Bowl champs. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tommy John Studio in New York City. I am your host, Charlie DiSturco, here to break down Eagles versus Packers in its entirety. Are the Packers live underdogs here as Jordan Love looks to build off a dominant second half of last season? Stuckey and Chris Raybon joined to break down the game and give out some best bets for the weekend. Nick Giffen is back yet again after cashing his Chiefs' first half team total over, and he's coming with some touchdowns, baby, so be prepared for some fun. Plus, Matt Schneidman joins to talk about the Packers ahead of their game, and Billy Ward gives out a 20-1 same-game parlay for this Friday Night Football. You do not want to miss that. But speaking of this Eagles-Packers game out in Brazil, let's take a look at the big storyline entering the game, and that is the backfield, with both teams now featuring two brand new running backs. No longer is it the Aaron Jones show in Green Bay. He's off to Minnesota as Josh Jacobs makes his way in. As for Philly, well, they did the most diabolical thing possible. They let DeAndre Swift walk and then went a few hours away to good old East Rutherford, New Jersey, and snagged superstar RB Saquon Barkley to a star-studded offense. This makes for a great Friday Night Football as we welcome in Stuckey and Chris Raybon to talk more about this game in particular. Chris, I'm going to kick it to you first because you have an official play on this game, and it is with the underdog Packers.
Yeah, I actually bought up to the 3 on Green Bay. I still show value at 2, but, the Packers have a weird kicker situation. They're going to try out a rookie, so that could come into play. But I do think the Packers are the side in this game because you got to remember, it's on a neutral field. That's number one. So no home field advantage for the Eagles. Number two, think about how these teams ended last season. The Eagles start 10-1. Then they finish 1-6, get upset in the first round of the playoffs. Meanwhile, the Packers start 2-5, and then they go 8-4 the rest of the way. They knock off the Chiefs along the way. They knock off the Lions. They come within 4 points of knocking off the 49ers. Jordan Love just throws 5 picks the rest of the way, well over 20 touchdowns. So the Packers ended last season as the better team than the Eagles. Now, right. I think both of these teams should be improved this year. But there's question marks about the Packers defense, right? Joe Barry leaves. I think that's addition by subtraction, but we don't know how, half he's going to do, and we don't know how quick they're going to pick up the scheme, even though I think it's more well-suited. And then the Eagles, big transformation on offense because you're giving Jalen Hurts more freedom at the line. You're bringing Kellen Moore. He said it's a 95% new offense for Hurts. And on defense for the Eagles, you're bringing Fangio. You have a pretty much new cornerback group aside from Slay. You got Cooper DeJean, you got Quinyon Mitchell, 2 rookies, and you got Kelee Ringo because Rodgers looks like he's going to be out. So the only unit that you could really say hasn't undergone a massive shift is the Packers offense. And for two teams that were where the Packers were better, even though I think the Eagles long-term may be slightly better than the Packers, right now, I think this is a lot closer to a toss-up. So I'll take the points with the Green Bay Packers all day. Matt LaFleur, 20-9 against the spread as an underdog. And as Stuckey mentioned on the Action Network podcast, Jalen Hurts just 6-12-1 as a favorite against the spread away from Philadelphia.
Yeah, he's really flourishing as an underdog, I would say, the Packers. And listen, I think... what? I got to bring the corny dad jokes.
Gig, Charlie. I'm loving it already.
All right, I see. This is what I got to do. I got to help the transitions go. The Packers, they look good. I think, personally, the defenses have a lot of question marks. I'm trying to stay away from a side here. That's why I'm looking toward the player prop market, but more on that in just a sec. Stuck, you kind of agree with Chris, but you have a different angle with getting involved with the Pack.
Yeah, I don't mind a Packers teaser to pairing them with another team on Sunday, where you can cross the 3 and 7. Although I don't love teasers in week 1. There's increased variance. It's week 1, and this total is a little higher. You're playing in another country, and there are a lot of changes that Chris touched on, which is what I'm most curious to watch today, or tonight, I should say. You have the Green Bay defensive changes. You bring in Jeff Hafley. It's going to be a 180 as far as what they're doing schematically. And just philosophically, it was a very bend but don't break, soft defense under Joe Barry. Now you're changing your front. It's going to be a more aggressive defense, and you're probably going to see more cover one, more quarters coverage. So how does that adjustment work? We won't know until we see it in live action. And the same thing with the Eagles. I'm curious to see Vic Fangio comes in, how he helps to fix their defense from last year. The secondary was the weak point. Add a lot of pieces. How do they all come together? Fangio's defense, not very easy to pick up. How long does it take for the Eagles to get acclimated? And then Raybon also touched on the Eagles' offensive change. Think it's a good hire. Ultimately, will prove to be a positive, but how long is that adjustment period? So, yeah, a lot of moving pieces in this game, which definitely increases the variance a bit, which isn't ideal for a teaser, but I do show a bit of value on the Packers. So I think it'll be a great data point for both teams against, fellow NFC contenders this season. So it should be a good one. And as the NFL continues to take over every day of the week.
Yeah, this Friday Night Football, you can't ask for more. We had a great Thursday game. We have football today. We have college tomorrow, Sunday. It's going to be nonstop in the action. But listen, you guys talked about the side. We're going to play a new game here at Action Network and on Green.Daily, and it's called the Sharp Tank. I'm going to come in. You guys are going to act as the sharps, the sharks, so to speak, just like the show. And I have a prop in this one, so let me just dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Hello and welcome, Sharps. I am Charlie DiSturco, and I am seeking an investment of a half unit from both of you today for 33% equity on this prop. You don't want to miss out on this one. It's Saquon Barkley over 82.5 rushing and receiving yards. Listen, guys, you get a new Maserati, you get a new Porsche. You want to take that bad boy out for a spin. Well, this shiny new toy, you can do just that. Saquon Barkley, extremely effective. Guy going in from New York where he was a workhorse. Maybe the production comes down, or the usage at least, but the efficiency is going to go up. You look at his stats last year. Over this number, 9 of 14, can beat you in the passing game, can beat you in the running game. Kenneth Gainwell is not going to tap into this usage here. I think the snap share is going to be high. They want to get Saquon off to a hot start. So I think that he's going to have a great day. I'm buying, maybe a lot of people on Twitter also like it, but I'm going to ride with the trend here. I think Saquon Barkley gets it done. What do you guys think?
I'll jump in here first, Charlie. You make some good points, and maybe there's something here, but I like to, number one, invest in founders that, I consider serious, and that LaFleurish joke kind of turned me off a bit. And two, I like to invest in projects that I'm passionate about, and player props aren't really my cup of tea. So I'm gonna pass. Maybe later on this season we can find a deal where we align. But for this specific one, I'm going to throw it to Chris, who this is more up his wheelhouse as a potential investor.
Raybon, hold on. Before I kick it to you to look for an investment, which I'm very serious about, by the way. Stuckey, I think, is just upset about the player props because he missed out on Travis Etienne back in the postseason when he gave it out, and then everyone bet it up, and then he got the bad number and it ended a half a yard short. Right, Stuck?
Got moles in the company.
Exactly, moles. But I'm not one of those. I'm passionate about getting this one to the homestand. So, Chris, ride with me, my friend. Come invest with the Charlie DiSturco Enterprise.
I can't do it. You mentioned, Kenneth Gainwell, and the word out of camp is he actually had a great camp, and he has been getting snaps with the first team offense. So you don't know how it's going to play out, because remember, we all thought, coming off the playoff loss, they only gave the ball to Gus 3 times, that Derrick Henry was going to get 20-plus touches. Justice Hill was the better running back in that game. So you never know how the stuff is going to shake out. We already talked about how the Eagles offense, new coordinator, new responsibilities for Hurst, just everything, new center. And then the Packers defense, new front, Stuckey hit on it, new coordinator, new philosophy. There's just a lot of new. So I have this number about with the market, but the averages are always going to be higher than medians. So you're essentially betting on like Barkley having a massive game. But if he doesn't, I think it's more likely than not he goes under. And, the Packers were 26th in DVOA against the pass and the run last year. But this new philosophy, I think it's at least better suited to their personnel. So this is not just the same necessarily poor quality Packers defense either, because the whole reason Joe Barry got fired, he took over a defense that was top 10 the year before he got there. The first year he gets there, they finished 12th. Then they dropped to 25th and 27th. So I think the talent was just underperforming. So I'm not ready to say, oh, this is just a terrible defense and Barkley's going to go crazy over them. So I just think there's too many question marks to confidently bet over on a high running back prop in week 1. So, maybe, I don't know about 33%, maybe a third of a box of Fiadel or something like that, but that's about all I can do for you.
All right, listen, bring the cannolis to the
Hurts.
What?
You also have Hurts rushing. Like how many yards is Hurts going to have?
He's just going to push his way
with
forward.
Lamar and Derrick Henry, right? It was like,
And I believe the last time these two teams played, and now it's going to be a different defense, but didn't Hurts have like 100 rushing yards in the first quarter or something against Green Bay? I could be misremembering that.
Yeah, no, he had, I think it was like a 40-33 game, and Hurts had a monster game again, but it's a new offense. We just don't know. So Stuckey, I know you were kind of joking. You want to be more passionate, but I think with something like this, it's really, I want to be more certain. If I'm betting an over anyway, if anything, I'm going to kind of trend toward unders when I have the uncertainty, because we know just sports books in general, they take more over money, so they're going to kind of shade the lines over by default. So yeah, I don't think it's a terrible play, because I have the number about right there, but with the uncertainty, I can't invest.
I'll have to call up Rovell or someone to get investment then. I think I can convince him to invest at least a small equity, but I guess I'm going to be stuck with 100% from the Sharp Tank this time. Next week I'll come with something else. We'll talk. Maybe it'll be a side or a total this time to get Stuckey more interested. But of course, Friday Night Football, we just discussed. We can't let you guys go without a weekend best bet as well. I'm going to kick it to Stuckey first, since Raybon went on that long tangent there. Stuck, where are you headed this weekend?
Listen, prove us wrong. I wish you luck. I hope you win the bet.
Thank you.
Then if you show us that you can have success, we're more likely to invest in the future. But give me the Carolina Panthers this weekend, catching 4 in New Orleans. I think this Panthers team is going to be significantly improved. I think they upgraded their offensive line significantly. I think it actually could end up being an above-average offensive line. You got 2 good guards. I think the center position will be better, and your tackles are pretty solid. And I think they upgraded their wide receiver room, the coaching staff. I think they're going to have things that are much more conducive to Bryce Young's skill set. And he can't be any worse than he was last year. Defense did lose some talent. Concerned a bit about the edge rush, but I really do like defensive coordinator Evero. I think he does a really good job of squeezing the most out of his unit schematically. On the other side, the Saints, I think their offense will also be better structurally. Both of these teams were bottom of the barrel as far as pre-snap motion, play action last year. I think they'll be, use both at a much higher frequency this year. So the Saints offense should look better structurally, but I'm really worried about the offensive line. The tackle situation is dicey. There's questions in the interior, and Carr under pressure, just not the same guy. So maybe, they can work those offensive line problems out, with a rookie, another guy changing positions, but it might take some time, or it just could be a mess all season long. And, historically, if you're looking for some trends, Dennis Allen and Derek Carr not fared well as a favorite, and road divisional dogs in week 1 have historically done very well, especially those teams that did not make the playoffs in the previous season. So give me the Panthers here.
The Carolina Panthers have become Action Network's America's team. They have become everyone on the Panthers at Action Network over wins to make the playoffs. A week 1 win or even a cover would be huge for them in general. Raybon,
what could go wrong?
Yeah, what could go wrong with betting the worst team in the NFL? Not much. Chris Raybon, you also are choosing ugly, and that's fading the number 1 overall pick in Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I'm going with the Tennessee Titans. I think they're down at 3.5. I'll take them as long as they're over a field goal. And the reason being, Chicago, they're getting the hype. You know, they made the big splashy offseason moves, but Tennessee, I believe, improved a lot as well. You know, we already know about the skill position adds with Calvin Ridley, Tony Pollard, Tyler Boyd, Callahan coming over from Cincinnati, where he was the offensive coordinator. You also have Latham at left tackle, you know, the number 7 pick in the draft. You have Cushenberry at center now, who was a top 10 graded center last year at PFF. So you address the offensive line, you addressed this, you bolstered the skill positions, you addressed the coordinator position. Now on defense, L'Jarius Sneed, one of the best corners in the game last year. Awuzie, who has had good moments in this league, he's a little older, but overall, still better than what they had last year. Quandre Diggs, same thing. And, you know, on the back end, you traded for Ernest Jones, who's one of the top linebackers in the game. So on both sides of the ball, I think Tennessee got a lot better. And you look historically at number 1 overall picks, and our boy Evan Abrams did the math all the way back to 1970 to the merger. And there's been 27 times that a number 1 quarterback pick has started in week 1, and they're covering just 27% of the time. So you have the trends on your side. And also teams like the Titans tend to be underrated. You know, Stuck kind of touched on it with the Panthers. Same deal for the Titans. Week 1 underdogs that won between 4 and 6 games the year before since 2005 are 71-35 against the spread, 67%. Since the NFL changed to a 17-game season, 11-3. Against the spread. In week 1, road underdogs that didn't make the playoffs the year before, 50-30, 63% since 2012. So a lot of trends in favor of the Titans. I wouldn't be surprised if they win this game. I'm high on the Bears long term. This is just a spot where I like both teams, but the market is only really kind of giving credit to one side.
Yeah, I totally agree with you here. I bet the 4.5. I love the trend of fading Caleb Williams. And keep that in mind, Chris, when we get the Sharp Tank next week. I'm with you on this one. We can work as one together. But Chris Raybon and Stuckey, thank you so much for joining me. A reminder, you guys can get access to their Sunday 6-pack, which is available out right now on their other best bets for week 1. Guys, thanks for hopping on.
Oh, it was a pleasure.
And let's stick to the gridiron and look at how the market stands ahead of placed bets on Friday Night Football. Just a reminder that this is the entire week 1 slate. But obviously early money is coming in on this Friday game. So it's going to take the cake on the most bet team, the Eagles. The most bet underdog, surprisingly, the Packers. No one wants that +2. They're taking the +110. And much will change in the next 48 hours. But it's interesting because the most bet total of this one is the under. An international under, not the over, is taking the cake on September 6th.
Clear!
And so now we step into the doctor's office for Nick Giffen to break down a couple of his favorite props on Friday Night Football. Nick, you got the Chiefs team total over yesterday. Let's keep the good times rolling. I know you also had, by the way, a great bet what happens live on Thursday. The Isaiah Likely touchdown, 9-1 in the second half, which, a reminder, Thursday, Sunday, Monday night at halftime, Nick will be on giving out his favorite picks at halftime with Grant Neefer. Nick, take us through where you're seeing this one fall out.
Yeah, well, I mean, we hit that Isaiah Likely touchdown. So, Charlie, we may as well do our own little touchdown show here. I know you were part of that last year with Gilles Gallant and B. Matt, who are doing it again this year. I was part of it 2 years ago. So why don't you and I just have a little touchdown show here? Yeah, so first touchdown pick for Green Bay versus Philadelphia. I'm going to go Jaden Reed anytime touchdown +210. He had 11 touchdowns last year. 11. And he's over 2-1 odds. That's pretty crazy. And what I really like here is the particular matchup that Jaden Reed gets. He lined up in the slot more than 70% of the time last year. And the Eagles, they were a bottom 5 defense versus the slot last year. Now they're trying to address that. They are trying to address that with first-round draft pick rookie Quinyon Mitchell. But I worry a little bit just about the level of competition he faced when he was with, Toledo in college. The only real Power 5 school he faced in his senior year was Illinois. And also, I've noticed just from scouting reports and things like that, he's tended to struggle more with man coverage. He's much better versus zone. but the Eagles did play man coverage at a little bit higher rate and zone at a little bit lower rate than NFL average last year. And Jayden Reed was a top half wide receiver versus man coverage with 1.9 yards per route run. And when Jayden Reed isn't lining up in the slot, the other two cornerbacks, should be neutral to good matchups as well. We've got the aging Darius Slay, who's nearly 34 years old and had a drop off in play last year. And then because of an injury to James Bradbury and also to back up Isaiah Rodgers, we're going with fourth rounder Keely Ringo, who only played 116 snaps in coverage last year. So really like Jayden Reed to get in the end zone in this one.
Yeah, I love this one. I mean, 6 of the last 8 games to end the regular season, Jayden Reed found the end zone. He really stole my heart on Thanksgiving when I gave him out north of 3-1. Long are the days that he's north of 3-1, but to get plus 210 for a guy who's going to get end arounds, quick option passes, I like this one. And your second one, I think I might even like better, even though I know your projections are higher on Jayden Reed, and that's targeting the superstar, or I think will be a superstar, Christian Watson.
Yeah, and I do have Jayden Reed projected around plus 190 as fair odds. Now, Christian Watson, I don't have projection value here, so I'm going against my projections on this one. I'm there with you, Charlie. Christian Watson, anytime touchdown, plus 210. He's an athletic gift. I mean, if you look at his measurables and things like that, way more of an athletic freak than Jayden Reed, who also very quick, but Christian Watson, just an athletic gift, and now he is fully healthy. And as I mentioned with Reed, the Eagles struggle versus the slot, but Watson lines up everywhere, pretty much a third in the slot, a third to the left, a third to the right. And with no Bradbury, no Isaiah Rodgers, I think this is just a great spot for Christian Watson to take advantage of this Eagles pass defense that allowed the second most touchdowns to wide receivers last year. And I don't think this will be a situation where Darius Slay is shadowing him, given that, the Packers have Jayden Reed and Romeo Doubs as well, 3 very capable wide receivers. So Watson should find himself in very advantageous matchups all game long. They love to give him some carries, some end arounds as well, just like Jayden Reed. So this is a very dynamic wide receiver and set of wide receivers to plan for.
It is.
So I think one of Christian Watson or Jayden Reed is scoring a touchdown. So I like getting both of them at plus 210. We just need to hit one of these two for a nice profitable Friday night football.
I love this one. And listen, I took Christian Watson as my best bet for the Action Network website. I laddered him up 50, 60 yards. This is a guy that I think has superstar potential that we haven't seen fully healthy. And now for the first time ever, he's entering a season at full health. I think he's going to be scary. And I don't even know what, the ceiling. We could look back at this plus 200 number north of 2-1 and be like, wow, what the heck were we thinking? So a pair of Packers touchdowns to take advantage of this weak Eagles secondary. Nick Giffen, I know we're not on the touchdown show anymore, but I do love a good touchdown every single time we go out. So best of luck, my friend, and I'll see you soon.
Absolutely. We'll see you.
Before we go further here on Green Dot Daily, just a reminder that you can get $20 off an Action Pro subscription and get access to some of the best edges in the market. And we have one special just for you on this Friday night football. Kenneth Gainwell, under rushing yards. We have this actually projected at 8 rushing yards flat. So a 12.5% edge based on the market at hand. You can see here under 13.5 rushing yards is the pro top prop because of that 5 rush difference. This isn't the same backfield where Swift and Gainwell were splitting carries. It's Saquon Barkley's to lose. It's Saquon Barkley's to run. They're going to want to show that shiny new toy. So the pro projections back that thought. They are high on Saquon and they're very low on Gainwell. So just a reminder, the under 13.5 rushing yards is a 12.5% edge. And just a reminder that if you want access to all of the Action Pro benefits, you could step up your betting game and get access to it by upgrading to an Action Pro subscription. Use code GDD20 to get $20 off your annual Action Pro subscription when you sign up now. Again, that's a reminder of code GDD20 to get $20 off your annual Pro subscription. Let's keep the good times rolling here on the gridiron, and we have a special guest, the debut of Matt Schneidman, Green Bay Packers beat reporter at The Athletic, and a mediocre poker player, if I say so myself. Matt, you're out in Brazil for the Eagles-Packers game. Twitter's banned out there, or X, I should say. How are you feeling? Because I know, as okay as you are as a poker player, you're a really good Twitter personality.
Listen, first of all, that's disrespectful. I've won 2 out of the last 4 times we played, so I have some respect. I came in second place the other day, too, when you were not playing. I'm going through withdrawals right now. I am someone who needs to be on Twitter at all times. It's how I get my news. It's how I stay updated. Twice yesterday, actually, at Packers practice, I accidentally opened Twitter just out of reflex. And it doesn't load here in Brazil, so I can't even scroll. But just out of reflex, where it is on my phone, I pressed it to open it because I do it so often. So I had to move the X app logo off the main screen so I wouldn't do that anymore.
You're like the meme of the guy scratching his neck anytime.
Yeah, Dave Chappelle. That's like me.
Yeah, that's literally that's how you are right now. And listen, I mean, when you go radio silent, family's not going to know you're okay because that's probably how they keep up with you to make sure you're alive. But let's talk a little bit about this game tonight. Obviously out in Brazil, Jordan Love makes his season debut, and last year in the second half of the season was absolutely incredible. Made himself into this top MVP caliber conversation entering the 2024 season. I'd say it truly feels like him winning the MVP is a possibility here. And what are your thoughts about Love entering this season in particular?
Yeah, I think it's certainly a possibility. I think from week 11 through the first game of the playoffs last year, he had 21 touchdown passes and 1 interception. He was absolute dynamite, which was kind of a surprise last season because of how rough he and the offense were in the first half of the season trying to get things figured out as a new group working together. Well, he doesn't exactly have a dominant wide receiver 1, but he has 4 guys in Dontavian Wicks, Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, and Christian Watson in no particular order that the Packers think can be a wide receiver 1 on any given day. So he has the weapons, not to mention Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave at tight end. Then I know we'll talk about Josh Jacobs in a bit, but he has the weapons at his disposal. If he can stay upright behind an offensive line that there are a couple question marks at and healthy, I think Jordan Love can be right there in the thick of the MVP conversation at season's end.
Right. It really feels like double-digit wins is in the realm of possibility. He finished top 10 in passing yards last year, finished second in touchdown passes thrown. If he can lower that interception rate, it really feels like, the sky's the limit for him, close to that 14-1 number right now in the market. And you mentioned, the shiny new toy here is Josh Jacobs in the backfield for Green Bay. A.J. Dillon is out for the season. Aaron Jones on to Minnesota. Marshawn Lloyd, they bring in also in the draft, and Emmanuel Wilson's also in this running back room. What are your expectations for Josh Jacobs in general? What are you hearing? Is it basically similar to what we saw last night where Isaiah Pacheco is going to be the every down back for Jacobs in particular here in Green Bay?
I don't know about every down, but I sat down with Matt LaFleur last week for a podcast I have with him, and he basically told me, not in these exact words, that the split backfield is gone in Green Bay, that they've kind of flaunted with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams over the years, even though Aaron Jones was always kind of the main guy. He said it's going to be different for them, kind of skewing all the usage toward Josh Jacobs, or at least more than half of the carries, if you will. Jacobs is a really good runner. They have plans to use him a lot in the passing game, and he's a lot younger than Aaron Jones, more than 3 years, which is a big reason why they signed him in free agency and let Aaron Jones go. Going into tonight's game, Emmanuel Wilson and Marshawn Lloyd, RB2 and 3 for the Packers, are both questionable. And as we record this right now, we don't know if they're going to play or not. So they're both banged up, which means Josh Jacobs is going to get even more of a workload on his back today. But in general, throughout the whole season, I think Josh Jacobs is going to be a featured player in this offense and used very heavily in Matt LaFleur's system.
Right. You think Josh Jacobs a couple years back had over 300 touches. It feels like it's in the realm of possibility right now for Green Bay to absolutely use him in the backfield. And seeing him in the passing game will be also interesting as well. But of course, we have to have a little bit of fun here. We both have a flair for poker, having a little fun. And so I came to you with my favorite bet of this entire game. It's a Packers-related prop, which fits perfectly. You're going to grade what you think of it in particular. And you mentioned the wide receiver room. There's 4 receivers in Green Bay. Well, I think there's one that you could really buy low on here, and that's Christian Watson. His prop right around 37.5 receiving yards. He's such a big play threat, an average depth of target, about 16, 17 yards for the Packers. And really, in that stretch where he was healthy, he was Love's favorite target. Number 1 in the target share, number 1 in first read share. you look at this now. For the first time all season, or I guess in his career basically, we're entering with Christian Watson not having injury-related questions. His seemingly 100% ready to go against the Philly secondary, by the way, that ranked in the bottom 10 in DVOA and pass defense. I just think this number's too low. I think we could ladder this one too if you really want to go full degen, going 40, 50, 60 yards. I'm curious your thoughts in particular because it feels like we're buying low on Christian Watson, who could be on the precipice of a breakout year.
Yeah, for sure. He is their biggest big play threat. Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks. I'm not going to call them possession receivers because they can break out a big play too. But the guy who does them most often, the guy who poses a threat to do it most often, is Christian Watson. Last time these two teams played, the Packers and the Eagles in 2022, Aaron Rodgers feared that he had a punctured lung. So Jordan Love came in as a third-year player late in the third quarter and shortly thereafter hit Christian Watson for a 63-yard touchdown, on which Watson did most of the work. Christian Watson has obviously, as you said, dealt with injuries the past 2 seasons, more than he would like. He did not miss a single practice in preseason, in training camp this year. So knock on wood if you're a Packer fan listening to this, but I actually just wrote something for us at The Athletic, and I think if I had to choose one of those 4 receivers to break out today, be the first guy to break out, even though any of them can, I would definitely go with Watson just because of his big play potential against maybe a weaker Philly secondary. So as bad of a gambler as you are, I think that's a good bet. I think that's a good bet.
Listen. I might not be the best poker player, but I would like to think that my NFL betting skills are up to the task. Matt Schneidman, thank you so much for coming on. Enjoy the game in Brazil and get home safe, my friend.
Appreciate it, brother.
If you're looking for a plus EV contest this NFL season, our friends over at Action Network have one for you. Their podcast called The Favorites is bringing back the free NFL Pick'em contest this season. It's totally free to sign up at favorites.actionnetwork.com. Just 5 picks against the spread every week. Cash prizes for the top 10 finishers, $40,000 first place prize, and $100,000 prize pool, plus thousands up for grab each week again. It's totally free to play. The contest just went live. Just go to favorites.actionnetwork.com to sign up and compete for the $100,000 prize pool. I mentioned it's a football-only Friday, so let's keep it rolling. We've got Billy Ward joining the show now. Billy, you break down same-game parlays for just about every island game. Today we have one in particular that I'm so excited for. I'm ready for this Brazil game. We got Eagles, we got Packers, we got 2 fun offenses. The first 2 legs in particular that you have, one of which I bet myself before we even started talking about this parlay, are pretty correlated. So give me the first 2, and then we'll keep on going from there.
Yeah, the first is the over 49. I like to start with a total when I'm building these because we kind of want to correlate around whether we think it'll be an offensive game or a slower paced game, and we can work from there. I just like how both teams' offenses match up against the opposing defense. Packers were really bad at stopping the run last year. Obviously, the Eagles can run the ball, and they added Saquon. They have a great offensive line. Kind of everything checks out there. And then on the other side, the Packers' passing offense came on really, really strong, especially down the stretch. Eagles' secondary is bad. They drafted a couple cornerbacks. I don't think that's going to help them a lot earlier in the year. We could see them better down the stretch, but, rookies in the very first game, in a primetime game in Brazil, there's a lot working against that. So over 49 is how we're starting it. And then with that, I'm going with Saquon Barkley over 83.5 rushing plus receiving yards. You could obviously take either his rushing or his receiving. The receiving part of it's going to correlate with a pick we talk about in a second. I think the Eagles look to feature Saquon here. I'm not sure if it's more in the passing game, more in the rushing game. I kind of want to cover both of our bases here. With the offensive line they have, with how explosive he can be, it only takes 1 or 2 big plays in either of those areas to get us most of the way there. So I know you're on that one as well. Talk me through why you took it.
Yeah, I love Saquon here, and I think it goes back to the whole shiny new toy narrative. Like, you're going to want to see Saquon Barkley get involved. I think that the Eagles are going to give him the football a lot, and we saw DeAndre Swift, how dominant he was behind the Eagles' offensive line. Now you add in a guy like Saquon, who is significantly better, and Saquon also just dynamite in the receiving game. I just expect them to use him a lot here. Listen, we saw Derrick Henry yesterday. He was used right around the goal line. They got him that first touchdown. I don't know if the Eagles will do that and get him his first touchdown altogether because, the damn tush push is the thing, but given Saquon and his explosiveness and the whole, shiny new tools, the matchup just presents itself for a Saquon Barkley 50-yard touchdown and also or 50-yard play. And also, Giants fans are going to be watching. They're going to be rooting against Saquon. It just feels so much better out in New York if you're rooting for a guy to go off. So I love Saquon in this one. I bet the rushing and receiving. Like you said, I don't know if it's coming on the rushing or receiving side of things in particular. But those are your first two legs. And obviously, more in-depth analysis over at actionnetwork.com where Billy broke down every single leg to a deep extent for the same game parlay. Billy, the third leg is actually an under, and it kind of works in Saquon's favor a bit.
Yeah, and part of what I'm trying to do here is to get to these big juicy payouts on the same game parlays, we kind of have to have one that goes against the total that we're taking. The books price that correlation in. They're pretty good at it. Make sure you shop around, by the way, because some books treat these entirely differently than others. It's a way bigger spread than on a player prop by itself. But that is Dallas Goedert under 4.5 receptions. It's minus 145, which normally I wouldn't pay for it. But when we're throwing it in a parlay that already has the over, it kind of effectively cuts that juice out on us. And as you alluded to, if we think Saquon's involved in the passing game, they still have A.J. Brown, they still have Devonta Smith, they just signed Jahan Dotson. There's just so many mouths to feed for the Eagles, plus Jalen Hurts is going to take off and run with the ball on a certain percentage of his dropbacks too. Goddard had about a 15% target share last year, and it's hard to get to 5 receptions on that kind of target share. I could even see that share going down this year with the new toys that they have in the backfield.
Yeah, I totally think so. I totally think so. I totally agree with you here. I like this one as well. I think I like A.J. Brown a lot in this one as well. I kind of took A.J. and Saquon, which, might be a little tough to get 80 plus from each of them, but I just fully expect them to use their best weapons. I think A.J. Brown's in for an offensive player of the year type season, and we saw early on, before the injuries and before everything else kind of snuck up on him, he was putting up 130 plus yards per game. Goddard's going to get lost in the mix. I agree with you here, and you add this one to the parlay. It's right around plus 445, plus 450. But listen, Billy, it's Friday night football. The juices are flowing. I need something to beef up this parlay. If I'm going to be sitting on the couch and I'm going to want to have some fun tonight, I need a long shot here. So please take me from this plus 450, plus 5 to 1, and get me up there higher.
Yeah, full disclaimer on my end. I'm betting the parlay that we've discussed so far, sprinkle on that, and then a sprinkle on what we're going to add here. That's Christian Watson, 70 or more receiving yards. You could play this a number of different ways. You could just throw in the Christian Watson over. You could ladder it up to any number you want if you really want to push the odds. If you go 70 plus, it takes the parlay entirely to 20 to 1. Christian Watson is a big play receiver. He doesn't catch a bunch of short passes. I have it in the article, but he never finished between 40 and 70 receiving yards last year. If you're betting on him to go over the 37.5, you might as well take 70 or at least 60, somewhere in that neighborhood. 8 out of 15 roughly last year. That's really 3 catches when you include yard after catch in there, and he gets to this total. And we just talked about with the over, we expect the Eagles to do, or the Packers to do most of their scoring through the air. Watson's the clear 1A when he's healthy. Seems like he's corrected the hamstring issue where he had one leg way stronger than the other, and that was causing all these problems. I don't know about that. Obviously, they're playing that somewhat close to the vest, but if he's fully healthy, he should be the top option in the offense in its entirety, much less the passing game.
Yeah, so right before you hopped on, we heard from Matt Schneidman, and he covers the Packers over at The Athletic, and he said, and I gave him my best bet of the day, also wrote it up over at Action Network, was Christian Watson over yards, just 37.5, but listen, Billy, I love going for a home run here with Christian Watson, and Matt said it himself. This is a game that you could sit back, relax, and then in a blink of an eye, Christian Watson has a 60-yard touchdown, and then all of a sudden we need just 10 more yards. This is an Eagles defense that ranked in the bottom 10 of DVOA against the pass last season. They're not getting any better right now, at least early on in week 1, and I don't think this is where Darius Slay shadows Christian Watson. I think they're going to put him all over the field. I think they're going to target him a lot. You mentioned the deep play threat. About a 17 ADOT is also great. So getting this to 20 to 1 is music to my ears. And obviously, reminder, Billy said he bet the plus 450 3-leg parlay, sprinkled a little bit more on this 20 to 1. It's always important to bet responsibly, so don't go crazy over these. But Billy, I feel like this is a little bit magic in the works here. I'm feeling good about this one. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, you're always feeling good about the parlay until the first thing goes wrong. But You mentioned Darius Slay. Lions fan here, watched Darius Slay a lot of years. I think I'd feel better if Darius Slay shadows Christian Watson at this point. Getting up there in age, not as fast as he once was. Pretty good at limiting catches, but there's a lot of big plays that go against him. So, yeah, I'd be fine with that one too. That one, I'm hoping you're wrong and he does shadow him.
Hey, listen, maybe big play Slay is just a term for how many big plays he's going to give up to us on Friday night. So hopefully Christian Watson gets the deep ball. We can take it home. Billy Ward, thank you so much. Enjoy the football tonight, my friend.
Thanks, you too.
And just a reminder that any picks we give out here on the show, you can easily reference by following us in the award-winning Action Network app at the handle @green.daily. We keep track so you don't have to. And before we let you go here on Action Network, I mentioned it's a football-only Friday. Well, I'm going to have to cheat a little bit. One of our producers, Hutton Jackson, and his wife Jackie, brought in two beautiful boys into the world. And I would say it's a little bit selfish if you don't ask me myself, because my producer's not here right now. I'm sorry, Hutton, please do not kill me. I understand you can't control everything, but listen, he posted the Twitter and gave out a 2-leg parlay in honor of their birth. So we decided we're making this a green dot grouper over on GDD. That's right, 2-leg parlay for the Jackson Twins. Jackson Holiday 2+ bases at +195. Parlay that with the Minnesota Twins money line, and you're gonna get the job done at over 5-1, a juicy payout for the Diamond, for Hutton, for the Jackson boys, Dylan and Owen. Congrats, Hutton. In all sincerity, I'm happy for you, my friend. Enjoy the time off and enjoy the time with the kids. Hopefully you can catch up on some sleep. But that's going to be it for GDD. Enjoy the Friday football, everyone. Eagles, Packers, we're in for a treat. I'll see you again on Monday for Jets 49ers.